When you hear of Australian animals, what comes to your mind? Maybe a kangaroo or a koala, perhaps snakes or massive spiders. Australia has abundant nature and an estimate of over 500,000 species that are native to the country, some of which you may not heard of. Due to its long geological isolation and unique evolutionary history, Australia has developed an exceptionally distinctive flora and fauna. Today, an estimated 83% of its mammals, 89% of reptiles, 90% of fish, 90% of insects, and 93% of amphibians are endemic, making Australia one of the most biologically unique regions in the world. This astonishing country is also famous for being home to unique creatures like marsupials, such as kangaroos, koalas, and wombats, and monotremes like platypus and echidna, remarkable animals found nowhere else on the earth. Since ancient times, animals have always been living in harmony with the original dwellers of Australia, the Aboriginal peoples. Aboriginal people, as they have been custodians of the land for thousands of years, have a complex and long-standing relationship with animals that is both spiritual and physical. Animals, among other plants or natural elements, are considered totems, and they're fundamental to cultural identity, health, and well-being. In Aboriginal communities, an individual could hold 4 totems representing their nation, clan, family group, and personal totem.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm 14 years old and I'm part of the Wiradjuri tribe of Australia. Wiradjuri tribe is inland New South Wales on the Murrumbidgee River. Us Aboriginal people have these things called totems, and totems are either plants or animals that your mum, dad, or aunties and uncles of the tribe feel connected to or like hung around when you were born. You were given them when you were born. Mine personally is a cockatoo. It is a white bird with a yellow crown. And my job as an Aboriginal person is to protect that bird. We think you turn into him when you die. So you have personal totems, then you have family totems. So my family totem is a goanna, and then you also have tribe totems, and our tribe totem is also a goanna.
Over the years, Aboriginal people have accumulated a wealth of knowledge about their surroundings and have developed useful skills to aid them in living off the land. Some of this information, Katrina, our guide to the Royal National Parks, shared with us on our field trip.
Gonna make a soap, see? And now if you go and put that soap into a pond that has fish in it, it stuns them, makes them sleepy, and then they'll go to sleep and you can catch them.
And so the Gymea lily will turn a beautiful red colour around May and then again around September, and that's when the whales start to migrate. And what the Darrell men used to do is stand with their spears on the sandbars, and they would wait for the orcas to swim and chase the seals towards the men. And the men would spear the seals and then bring them in and use all the parts of the seal that they wanted and then throw the offal back to the orcas. And so they had a symbiotic relationship. And there's a beautiful engraving up in the Darrell National Park, the Royal National Park, of an orca that's around 20,000 years old to tell us this story.
In 1788, the first British fleet carrying convicts and other settlers arrived in Sydney, marking the establishment of the colony of New South Wales as a penal settlement. This has brought about a great change in the Australian wildlife. The colonizers' land development destroyed the habitats of many endemic species, and the introduction of non-native species further reduced native populations or even drove them to extinction.
Found more than 100 red-bellied black snakes living in their backyard.
My goodness. A teenage girl killed by a shark north of Brisbane.
A surge in blue bottles has made the ocean a no-swim zone.
The wildfire is really terrible and very scary.
The relationship between humans and animals is often seen as positive, but it also comes with serious challenges. Conflicts with wildlife, ethical concerns in domestication, and environmental damage all reveal the negative side of this fund. One of the biggest issues is a conflict between humans and wildlife. As we expand into natural habitats, animals are forced into human spaces, creating dangerous encounters. A famous example is the Emu War in Australia. In 1932, thousands of emus invaded farmlands in Western Australia, damaging crops. The government tried to control them with machine guns and failed. This shows how human expansion can create unintended wildlife problems. Another example is the conflict with sharks. Shark attacks, while rare, cause panic, leading to harmful culling programs and netting that kill not just sharks but also turtles and dolphins. Instead of coexisting, we often try to control or eliminate wildlife, disrupting ecosystems. Even with domesticated animals, our bond isn't always positive. Selective breeding has led to health problems in pets, like pugs struggling to breathe due to their fat faces.
In farming, industrial meat production raises animals in crowded and natural conditions just to meet human demand. While we rely on animals for food and companionship, we also exploit and manipulate them, often prioritizing profit over their well-being. Human-animal interactions also damage ecosystems. A major example is invasive species, like the introduction of cane toads to Australia. Brought in to control pests, they instead became pests themselves, killing native wildlife and spreading uncontrollably. Similarly, overfishing and pollution threaten marine life, including species like jellyfish, and in some areas, overfishing has led to jellyfish population booms, disrupting ocean ecosystems. The human-animal bond is complex, and while we love animals, we also harm, control, and exploit them. Instead of trying to dominate nature, we need to find ethical and sustainable ways to coexist. Whether it's rethinking wildlife management, improving animal welfare, or even protecting ecosystem, we must recognize that a truly strong human-animal bond is built on respect, not exploitation.
I feel like misunderstanding is usually the mindset. The only thing we can do is try to understand each other. Today, Australia's unique wildlife is one of the key attractions that draw visitors here from around the world. In addition to some of the world's most famous zoos, where tourists can observe iconic species up close, encounters with native animals are common in everyday life, in public parks, on city streets, and even on the university campus. Australia has made ongoing efforts to protect its fauna, even though there are no national laws applying to animal welfare, but all states and territories regulate animal welfare in their jurisdiction. In New South Wales, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals regulation was made in 2012.
Though many criticize zoos for being immoral by holding animals in captivity, they often give a new chance at life to rescue animals and care for a species that in nature would otherwise be subject to great dangers. According to keepers at the Sydney Wildlife Zoo, there are many dangers to wildlife that humans contribute to, like the increasing number of bushfires and the eradication of rainforests. At the zoo, keepers will often emphasize the importance of being mindful of our effects on wildlife. By limiting our consumption and pollution, we can individually contribute to protecting our planet and all of its precious animals. One way to better educate children to respect nature is to expose them to wildlife from an early age and teach them how they can best interact with it. Wildlife Sydney is assisting children's learning experience with introducing interactive and informative installations, fundraising for endangered species, and holding several daily keeper talks. In order to better understand how to protect biodiversity and to respect wildlife as well as be aware of its dangers, we need to encourage children to participate in outdoor education, visit zoos and nature reserves.
Human beings have to adapt themselves to get along with the nature, just like overcome, just like how to interact with each other like fairly and equally. I think that is the main task that modern society right now have to face.
Australia's wildlife is deeply intertwined with its history, culture, and identity. From the deep respect and spiritual connections of Aboriginal communities to the challenges and misunderstandings that came with colonial expansion, human-animal relationships have always shaped life in this country. While some wildlife is perceived as a threat and encounters can be dangerous, animals are not just obstacles to human life. They are an essential part of Australia's ecosystems. Instead of seeing wildlife as a spectacle or a problem to be controlled, we must shift towards coexistence. Protecting endangered species, preserving natural habitats, and recognizing the value of animals in education and therapy are steps toward a more balanced relationship. By learning from indigenous knowledge and fostering a sense of respect, we can move beyond fear and convenience, embracing a future while humans and wildlife thrive together in symbiosis.